Hi, I'm your host, Dale Josie of Aging with Grace 55 Plus. I'm so pleased and honored to announce a new partnership, and it's going to be very impressive as soon as you hear this, because given the graying of America, given how all statistics talk about our nation growing older and older, I thought it would be good to introduce you to someone who's very much on this topic and also working in a place which is addressing these issues and so much more. So without further delay, my next guest, my first guest actually, is Anna C. Faul. She's a PhD, and she's also the executive director of the Trager Institute Optimal Aging Clinic, and also a professor of Kent School in Social Work and Department of Family and Geriatric Medicine, in addition to also being a Hartford faculty scholar. That's a mouthful. I had to look down at my notes. Without further ado, Dr. Anna Faul, welcome to this special episode of Aging with Grace in cooperation with your clinic. This is going to be fun.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to talking to you.
Talk to us, I guess, right off the bat. First of all, that was a mouthful of alphabet soup. So I want to make sure people understand that what you're doing and exactly where you're doing it at, because it's a very impressive body of work.
So we are the Trager Institute Optimal Aging Clinic, and we function from Market Street in downtown Louisville in the Nulu district. We work collaboratively with the whole of the university to promote optimal aging in everything that we do, in research, in clinical care, and in workforce development. And I am a social worker by trade, so just to give you that perspective as well. Like to work with the whole community if I can.
Yeah. And I think it's important to note that while you're downtown Louisville, the Nulu area, you have a national reach. And on the backside, we're going to talk about one of your conferences coming up. But I think it's fair to say that you have a national footprint, yes?
We do. We actually work nationally with a group of institutes, universities, who are all promoting aging and healthy aging and age-friendly healthcare systems. So nationally, we have a strong prominence. Also in the state of Kentucky, we work not only in the Nulu district, we work across the state in a variety of federally qualified health centers, primary care settings, community agencies to promote healthy aging.
Well, with that said, optimal aging is in your title. So what does optimal aging mean?
So optimal aging is it's really an important concept to look into, because what we try to promote is to say to individuals that as we age, it doesn't mean that we're not going to get disease. It doesn't mean that we're not going to, that our body is going to change, but it does mean that we try to maintain physical health as much as we can by making sure that we live as healthy as possible. We emphasize the healthy eating, regular exercise, preventative health care. So that's our physical health. Another very important aspect that we forget about a lot is the physical health of the psychological health of ourselves. So we have to have emotional well-being. A lot of older adults sometimes are struggling with depression and anxiety. It's important that we address these issues so that there can be psychological well-being for our older adults. The social aspects of aging is just as important. We need to live a life of engagement. It could be in a church community, it could be in a friend community, clubs, organizations, but be out there, be engaged in life, and having a life purpose is also what optimal aging means to us. And then lastly is to work on our cognitive health by making sure we test our brain, learn a new language, play the piano for the first time in your life, do those things that can stimulate your brain so that you can stay cognitively healthy as long as possible.
When you talk about staying cognitively healthy as long as possible, and then the other points that we just talked about in terms of optimal aging, I submit that ties right into the popular concept of aging in place, correct? Is that what we're trying to do as we age?
That is so important. Thank you for saying that, Dale, because aging in place is what we strive for. We don't want to move people from one level of care to a next level of care in congregate settings. We want people to stay in their homes as long as they can, and if possible, until death. So therefore, we want to create support systems in the community. We want to have healthcare that can go to the home if needed, support, care, caregiver support, anything that is needed for our older adults to age in place and live healthy and optimally until the end.
That's good. And then when you talk about about misconceptions about aging, what are some of those popular myths, if you will, or misconceptions about aging?
Many times people would say that, oh, when you're going to reach 70, you won't be able to do much more, but I have friends in their 80s who's playing pickleball with me, who is actively involved in the choir at church, who is climbing the stairs better than I can do. And I am 60 years old. So, someone 20 years older than me, it doesn't mean that you're aging, you are declining to the level that you can't do anything anymore. That's a total misconception. It is how we embrace aging that can help us live this life of engagement. People think that older adults can't learn new things. And that is just totally untrue. There are so many people that are learning new languages. I've got a friend who is fluent in Italian, and he learned that language over the last 3 years, and he's 75 years old.
Wow.
So
Wow.
isn't it amazing? We can learn things. It's a misconception.
Yeah.
People do not age in the same way. Depending on how you lived your life earlier on is going to determine how you live your life as you age. It's not the same for everyone. So it's just different. And we need to understand that it's different. One other thing I would say is that people think old age is depressing. It's not. I'm embracing the wisdom that older adults give me and the wonderful opportunity to engage with older adults. So, those are just some of the things that I want to make sure people know that all those things are not true.
I absolutely love what you said about embracing aging. And I think part of it is cognitive brain health, which you also mentioned a moment ago, learning a language, playing the piano, staying engaged. Helps you to embrace life versus sitting on the porch at Golden Acres just rocking away counting gophers. Not a good prospect, right?
Not a good prospect, and not something I want to do for my process. I want to be active and engaged, and I want to make sure that I stimulate my brain as much as possible. To me, that's so important.
Well, when you say that, what are the most significant challenges older adults face? And given those challenges, how can they build resilience?
Physical decline is a reality. Our bodies do change. My body is not the same as what my body was when I was 50 years old. I'm more susceptible to diseases. I never would have thought that me at my age with no genetic linkage to it could develop cancer that I had last year. So, these things happen. These are limitations. These are challenges. But one thing I know is that you do not have to be the victim of these changes, because if you can just exercising and balancing my diet, I was able to overcome a bad cancer diagnosis and be healthy again. So
thank God for that.
There's so many things we can do, but we need to understand that they are the possibilities of change. Like, I'm starting to forget things more. My husband started to forget things more. So what can we do? We can develop skill sets to stimulate our brain. I have friends who play on a tablet. Every day they play brain games on a tablet to keep stimulating their brain. So we can overcome these things by building those social connections, by making sure you have the right financial resources to support you on your journey. We need to make sure that we not only stay healthy, but we do not go into a situation where you cannot take care of yourself in your home anymore. We need to combat ageism. That is very true and very alive. People who think that when you're older, you don't know anything, you won't learn anything, so you can just as well stop working and sit at home. We need to challenge that, and we need to go after these jobs that we think we can do and keep doing it. We need to really seek counseling if we need help, if we feel depression and anxiety and loneliness taking over. Go for help. There's so much social support and things online that can help us. So I can talk for hours about all these things that we can do.
I know you can, Dr. Faul, because the one thing I like about you, and from day one when we first met, the mantra for my podcast series, Aging with Grace 55 Plus, has always been an attack on ageism, because that is very prevalent and very real in our society. So I guess the question is, we almost have to reprogram ourselves, right? Because from the day you're born, it's almost like an inexhaustible trek to decrepitude. Yeah, that if you look at Hollywood, if you look at all the images coming at us, so it's almost like we have to reprogram our brain to say we're not declining, we're not becoming decrepit, we're moving towards more a goal and being more purposeful. Agree?
I will, and I will. I want to take you back to the African culture and my heritage, where if you look at a tribal nation in Africa, what do they do when they need advice and guidance? They go to their elders. They
Mm-hmm.
go and sit in a circle in front of the hut of that elder, and they ask the questions, and then you hear the wisdom given to these young.
Mm.
That is what we need to do. In America, we've moved away from seeing the wisdom in older adults. What we
Yeah.
do is we want to get them out of our way so that we can do our thing.
Mm-hmm.
We need to stop doing that and benefit from the wisdom that they have to offer us.
It's almost like you're swimming upstream. If I can submit the following analogy, because in the Eastern cultures, to your point, there is a respect. I'm sorry, in the Western cultures, as you suggest, there is a respect for elders to embrace them. Whereas in Eastern culture, in our society, is driven by Madison Avenue, which means they're going after younger generation in a certain area. And if you don't fit that diagram, then get out of the way. Which
Yeah.
means even at 50 years old, get out of the way, because we're going after 18 to 40-year-olds, and
Yeah.
that impacts us negatively as a society.
It does impact us negatively, and we have so much wisdom that's getting lost.
Mm-hmm.
And so much life experience that's getting lost. If you think about how valuable it will be for an older adult to support and mentor a younger person. So we try to institute these kind of mentorship programs in all the work that we do as well, and just having this intergenerational learning from each other is just so important.
For our guests, and if you may have just tuned in, we have a few more minutes with Dr. Anna Faul. She is the executive director of the University of Louisville Trager Institute and Optimal Aging Clinic. Dr. Faul, speaking of the clinic, why was the Trager Institute created?
The reason why we created the Trager Institute here at the University of Louisville was really to bring together the enormous power we have in Louisville as I call us the aging capital of the world. If you look at all the healthcare industries that are having their headquarters here, we needed to do something at this university to make it more prominent, to showcase what it means to have that many headquarters in one city. And so we were created in 2015 by the Board of Trustees of the University of Louisville, and we have three main focus areas. The first focus areas is to integrate an interdisciplinary healthcare. We want to make sure that whenever we take care of an older adult, we address all their concerns in a whole health model and patient-centered model of care, and not a disease-specific where you go to 5 different specialists and you get medicine from these 5 different specialists and there's no integration of care. So everything we do is focused on integrated interdisciplinary whole health care. Then continuous research and improvement is how do we make these practices better? How do we develop payment models that can address these different way of providing care to older adults? It's not easy in a fee-for-service world to do this stuff. And then finally is to train the workforce of tomorrow. We are very fortunate to have a lot of federal funds that support our work to train an interdisciplinary team of learners to provide this kind of care. So we work alongside almost 1,000 learners every year, teaching and educating them on how to work with older adults. And then we send them out in these communities and say, go and do your work and do well.
1,000 workers you're educating?
Yes,
Go ahead.
that we touch every year. We touch about 1,000 workers. We do very intense work with about 100 every year, and then we touch about 1,000.
As idealistic or as purposeful as the clinic is, I imagine that you face a lot of obstacles in achieving your work and accomplishing your mission. What are some of those obstacles that either remain or that you had to overcome to create the clinic?
I think the biggest obstacle is learning to know that you can work together as different disciplines to provide optimal care to an older adult. You can learn as social worker to be alert when they see a person who seems off balance and vague and foggy, knowing that maybe there's a medication interaction happening here. You can teach a medical person to understand the social determinants of health that block people from getting healthy food, because they just don't have the money or the resources. So you can give everyone these different skill sets that really sometimes are just very discipline specific. So we had to learn, how do you teach people to be okay to step into another role of another discipline and be okay with it? So that was one of the obstacles we had to learn how to do, to work with all of the different schools at the University of Louisville combined. So we have currently music therapy, art therapy, physical therapy, medication management, behavioral health services, medical services, all together in one spot. But it took some effort. Plus, the fee-for-service models that pay for these services don't always take a good approach towards this. So, we try to test models of care so that we can be reimbursed for these services. But right now, we let our students learn the skill set and then hope eventually the world will change. The other part that I want to mention is it's hard sometimes to advocate for older adults. So we need to train. So we do train. We train our students to become advocates for the people that they serve. And I am sometimes amazed at how these students go up and be advocates for people who's very marginalized in our community. They would go with them to visits. They will help them manage their medications. They will visit them often, make sure they are not lonely. So advocacy, teaching the healthcare workforce to be advocate for older adults. That's an obstacle, but we have overcome it, and we are doing well now.
Congratulations on that. And as you were talking, I remember a prior episode where I interviewed Dr. D. Antimasarius on Aging with Grace 55 Plus. And that's when I first became aware of the whole challenge of polypharmacy, right? Yeah. And whereas you're integrating it, but different doctors prescribing different things, even if you're taking herbal supplements thinking they're healthy, that mix in your body could be disastrous. So it's good to hear that you guys are also addressing that on an interdisciplinary approach. That's really good. So we talk about the challenges, we talk about some of the obstacles, but in every story, right, there are proud moments of achievements, accomplishments. So Dr. Faul, as we go to our conclusion, what's one of the things that you're most proud of for the Institute that you direct and run?
I think I want to tell you maybe two stories. The one is we annually do a Gold Standard Award for Optimal Aging, where we honor people 85 years and older who have been able to accomplish life by aging with grace, to use your words. And it's wonderful. Every year, that event, we have one in September this year, and it's wonderful to watch and see how proud people are of this award, that anyone as ordinary as a farmer, as a person who's been a housewife all her life, whoever, get recognized for being a valuable member of our society and turning 85. It's a great and valuable experience that I think is one of our proud moments. And then I want to share a story of a person who always wanted to paint and always had this thing that she has missed out on life because she never learned how to paint. So she was in counseling because she was very lonely and depressed. So we referred her to one of our art classes. And this woman came to her art class, she's 85 years old, and she started to paint. And the other day, she sold her first painting for $20.
No way. Are you serious?
She actually called our practice manager to tell the practice manager how proud she is that she sold something for $20. So these kind of stories just warm my heart. There's just so many wonderful stories about people and how we can give meaning back to their lives.
That is so good. And when you mentioned a couple of events coming up, for our listeners who want to have more information, visit the tragerinstitute.org is their website. The looks like and on there you're going to see a great calendar. And on the calendar, well, first let me talk about the two highlights. One, you had mentioned the Gold Standard Optimal Aging Award. I guess that's September 22nd. And then I also understand, before we go to the national conference, that September is Optimal Aging Month. So what does that mean, madam? Explain that to us.
So we are going to do throughout the month of September, we're going to do a variety of activities to entice people to join the journey of optimally aging. We're having a walking contest throughout the state of Kentucky. Counties can join us and be part of this contest. There's a walking trophy. It's been this contest has been going on for 10 years. Last year, we were in 21 counties, and the county who won walked 13 million steps.
13 million steps. Are you serious?
Right. So we have all of these events.
That's so cool.
We are launching events at the University of Louisville with all the employees to take part in this walking contest, and also to sign up for some health benefits that if they, they get more health benefits if they take part in chronic disease management classes. So we're going to have talks about that. Your broadcast will show the whole of September. We're having the Gold Standard Award in September. And we are just going to be everywhere. You will hear from us everywhere.
That's so good. And speaking of hearing from you everywhere, you have a national conference coming up in April 23rd through April 24th of 2024. Tell us about your national conference, which is bringing in, I understand, thought leaders from all across the country, correct, on best practices in aging, yes?
Yes, we bring in thought leaders from across the country to give us, every year we get an update on dementia care and the newest changes in medications. We get an update on lifestyle medicine and the value of exercise and nutrition. We get experts on heart medicine. We get experts on cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and we also get expertise from older adults. We have one older adult who come every year to talk about how you can use generally available technology resources to make your life better and aging in place. And he every year won an award for just his amazing presentation. So it's a mix of medical providers, other healthcare providers, community health workers, and then our older adults coming together to do this. We're going to be at the Brown Hotel. Please go to our website and register for the event.
Yes, indeed. We encourage everyone to go to the website, register to the event at tragerinstitute.org. And you'll also see different classes. You got chair yoga, and you got Tai Chi. You've got all sorts of things for folks, those of us who are aging with grace, which is truly the goal of everyone. Dr. Faul, I can't get my head around 13 million steps cumulative. That's amazing. I have a step counter and I'm trying to stay healthy, right? And so I set 6,000 steps for myself every day. And the other night before I closed my eyes and looked at the pedometer, I had 5,870 steps.
Did you get up and walk around?
Well, I was trying not to because I have an obsessive personality. I said, if I do that now, I'm going to keep doing that. So sleep, and tomorrow we'll figure out how I can get the extra steps in. So if anybody can share that with me on their journey, I would love it. Dr. Faul, this has been absolutely delightful. And for our guests, again, you've heard from Dr. Anna Faul. She's the executive director of the University of Louisville Trager Institute and Optimal Aging Clinic. She's also a professor at the Kent School of Social Work at the University of Louisville. And as you can hear, her passion has been dedicated over 37 years to helping older adults live productive and healthy lives across the life stream. Well done, lifespan, I should say. Lifespan, either way. Potatoes. Either way, Dr. Faul, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it. And I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
My next guest on this podcast series, in collaboration with the University of Louisville Trager Institute and Optimal Aging Clinic, is Dr. Sam Cotton. She's an assistant professor, Department of Family and Geriatric Medicine at the University of Louisville School of Medicine, and she is also a geriatric academic career awardee. Without further delay, we're going to get into some more information about Dr. Cotton. For right now, welcome to Aging with Grace 55 Plus in collaboration with the University of Louisville, with the Trager. I still got to get used to this, right? University of Louisville Trager Institute and Optimal Aging Clinic. How are you?
It's a mouthful.
I'm doing a mouthful.
Thanks for having me today.
Well, you're very welcome. And if you could, I'd also ask Dr. Faul to share, to kind of decipher the alphabet soup, make sure people understand what we're doing here on this new podcast series. And then the tail end of that, explain who you're with, and then what exactly is your specialty area, which is lifestyle medicine.
Mhm. Yeah, so I've actually worked at the Trager Institute back when we were called the Institute for Sustainable Health and Optimal Aging, also a mouthful, right?
Yes.
And one of my areas of focus is lifestyle medicine. I'm a board certified practitioner in lifestyle medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my main goals in doing that and pursuing that, because I'm a social worker by profession,
Okay.
was really to be able to help the persons that I work with through our optimal aging clinic focus in on some of those healthy lifestyle behavior change that can really be helpful for them as they get older. And
Mm-hmm.
in addition to that, I also have a very special interest in working with persons with Alzheimer's disease and related dementias and their caregivers.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these lifestyle changes can be very helpful in preventing that disease, but
Mm-hmm.
also managing some of the symptoms as they come up.
Well, when you talk about lifestyle medicine, I think that we were talking off mic about 6 pillars of lifestyle
Mhm.
medicine. What are the 6 pillars? That sounds very structurally sound.
Yes, yes. I often liken it to, really having that shelter over your head, so to speak, as you get older, to provide care for yourself. But when we talk about the 6 pillars, what we're really focusing in on is whole food, predominantly plant-based, in
Hmm.
terms of the nutrition eating plan that you're focused in on.
Mm-hmm.
We're focused on physical activity. So looking at at least 150 minutes of moderate exercise every week. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're not already doing that, let's focus on what are some things that you can start doing to work up to that. Even 10 minutes is great in terms of physical activity.
Mm-hmm.
We focus on restorative sleep. So really getting quality sleep every night, at least 7 hours of that. And then in addition to those three very important pillars, we focus on stress management. We all know we have very busy lives, right? So focusing in on those things that bring you joy, that can really help manage your stress. Avoiding risky substances. So avoiding things like smoking, overindulging in alcohol, and then also maintaining those positive social connections in our life. We all have been through COVID over the last couple of years. Social isolation is such a huge issue for the older
Yes.
adult
Yes.
population.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've seen that a lot of that on the news lately. So really maintaining those social connections.
Mm-hmm. Where were you 10 years ago when I was in politics? Where were you 12 years ago when I was working for a law firm and my stress level was like through the roof?
Hmm.
Where have you
Yeah.
been?
Yeah. And when you start talking about stress, that's when I start talking about lifestyle medicine and I talk about stress management, everybody zones in on that. Every flyer I have, every time I'm going out and giving talks in the community, people are like, stress, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I will also tell you these pillars are very overlapping. So some of the things you can do to manage your stress are going to be focusing on nutrition. Food
Mm-hmm.
is medicine for
Mm-hmm.
dealing with stress,
Mm.
focusing on that physical activity piece, focusing on that quality sleep piece. So all of that can help manage your stress.
When you talk about the whole foods, and not eating processed vegetables, correct? Basically, out of the
Hmm.
garden, more
Yeah.
organic. I remember I was going through something, and a dear friend of mine said you have to eat beets. I was running a nonprofit at the time, and one of our volunteers told me that. So I said, okay. So I got a can of beets, and she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Beets." I thought BEETS meant Monty, Del Monte beets, right? And she said, "No, you got to go out. You got to pull it out of the garden. You
Yeah.
got to peel it." I said, "Okay, so much for beets, because if it's not Del Monte, Dr. Sam, I'm sorry. Am I a lost cause?"
No, you're not. I always say when you're making these changes in your life, you can start at any age, right?
Yeah.
Of course, we want to focus on it very early on, right, from a prevention standpoint, but it doesn't matter what you have going on. I think that you can really implement some of those changes in your life. And I always tell people, I think there are a lot of things out there, like we think, oh, well, I'm not going to have dessert tonight. I'll have applesauce.
Right,
Well,
right.
applesauce is still processed, right? It's better to
Yeah,
have
yeah.
the apple than it is to have, whatever, the applesauce, for example.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, when you talk about importance of as we age, why is lifestyle medicine so important for us as we age? On the continuum of aging, what does it do, and how does it help us sustain ourselves over time?
Yeah, so it can really be a preventative measure, right? For
Hmm.
avoiding chronic conditions. We know as we get older, we're more susceptible to various chronic conditions like hypertension, hyperlipidemia, diabetes, COPD. These are all things that, as we get older, we're more predisposed to. And
Hmm.
engaging in these healthy behaviors can really help prevent some of that. Now, if you're already dealing with something like, let's say you're really struggling with diabetes, for example, or even
Hmm.
Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah.
Really engaging in these behaviors can help better manage what's going on with you. I always say that, especially when it comes to something like Alzheimer's disease, I think a lot of times people are like, oh, just let them eat whatever they want, that,
Right.
life's short. But I always want to remind people that, things like eating really processed foods adds additional inflammation into our
Hmm.
bodies. And
Hmm.
so if you're a person dealing with Alzheimer's disease, that's just going to make you feel more miserable, sometimes make you feel more anxious or agitated as well, because you just don't feel well. So
Hmm.
again, all of these things can be really, really important for us from both the prevention standpoint, but also for already dealing with a chronic condition.
Well, in your bio, you mentioned that you are involved with Alzheimer's disease and caregivers, including developing innovative evidence-based practices for caregiving, et cetera. And when I read that, it reminded me of Tony Bennett, the great crooner who
Oh yeah.
passed away recently, right? The New York
Yeah.
Times, the New York Times said he was the singer of the American Songbook. He was the crooner. I'm sorry, the crooner of the
Mm-hmm.
American Songbook. But here's the kicker, Dr. Cotton, and I'll show you would appreciate this. While he was losing his memories, he still remembered his songs,
Mm-hmm.
including publishing Cheek to Cheek with Lady Gaga in 2021, that album that won them a Grammy Award. So that's an inch. I could not get my head around that. How was he able to remember the music while suffering the ravages of Alzheimer's? Your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's always remarkable to me how resilient we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I always liken memory to a bookcase. So, as we make a new memory or as we do a different task that we do all the time, we kind of add it to a photo album book that goes on
Mm.
that bookshelf. And
Mm.
all the way at the top are those oldest memories, and all the way at the bottom are our newest memories. And
Oh.
sometimes, depending on what part of our brains are impacted by Alzheimer's disease, we might not be able to reach the top, right?
Mm.
Or we
That's
might
so
have
good.
more short term things, and we might not be able to reach the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And so for some individuals, again, it just depends on how their body is processing that particular condition, what they're able to retrieve.
I love
Um, I
that
had an
analogy. Go ahead.
I had an aunt who had Alzheimer's disease, and I remember going very vividly to a doctor's appointment with her. And, it was like 2014 or something like that, right? And she would
Mhm.
have been in her 60s. Well, when the doctor asked her how old she was, she told him, he asked her what year it was. She told him the year, and she told him what age she would have been that year. I did the math. And so she was remembering something, maybe a doctor's appointment she went to when she was that age.
Oh,
And she was able to retrieve that. Now, she couldn't tell you what she had for lunch yesterday or why she was
oh,
at the doctor today, but she retrieved that particular memory. And so I think sometimes we're able to still manage some different pieces of the puzzle, as I call it.
mhm,
So yeah,
mhm.
everybody's a little bit different.
Well, I'm always going to remember that analogy of the bookcase. I think that's really good. And so, with that said, with the bookcase, a shelf at the top, and more recent memories at the bottom, what are some practical steps that older adults can take to improve their health and also a healthier lifestyle? What are your thoughts on that in terms of practical
Yeah,
steps?
I think a lot of times as we get older, we tend to continue those patterns of behavior that we've done our entire life, right?
Hmm.
So if
Hmm.
we're used to, eating fast food most evenings for dinner, we're going to keep that pattern going, right?
Hmm. Right.
And it's very hard to make those changes once we kind of get into that pattern. And so what I always suggest is that people start making small changes, right? If you have dessert every night for dinner, after dinner, focus in on making small changes. So replace the piece of cake or the candy bar with an apple or
Hmm.
something of that nature. If you have never worked out, right? If you've never really been physically active,
Yeah.
it's always now is the time to start. It's never too late. So maybe it's just walking down the block. Maybe it's
Hmm.
walking outside to get the mail.
Yeah.
Start somewhere. right? And so making those changes can really have an impact. And I know they seem small,
Hmm.
but they can be so impactful.
Well, Dr. Cotton, and by the way, for our guests, I hope you're enjoying this interview as much as I am with Dr. Sam Cotton. She's an assistant professor, Department of Family and Geriatric Medicine at the University of Louisville School of Medicine. And she's also at the University of Louisville Trager Institute and Optimal Aging Clinic. Dr. Cotton, as we go to our close, 2 points for you. Number one, when you talk about the making the changes in dietary habits, I'm sure you remember the movie, the documentary with Michael Moore a number of
Mm-hmm.
years ago. It's called Supersize Me, and
Yep.
he ate religiously at McDonald's and gained this weight, which was just off the charts. And so, but yet you look at what their signs say, over 5 billion hamburgers sold, whatever it is. I'm not knocking McDonald's. I'm just talking about the steady diet. And it's so much easier for a parent, I submit, to go to McDonald's on the way home, get a
Oh
Happy Meal
yeah.
for the kids, versus I've been working 8-10 hours today. I gotta go home and cook,
Mm-hmm.
so that's easier said than done.
Oh
Yes.
yeah. Yes. And to that, I would say we have to be very deliberate and intentional about what we're eating. I'll go back to what I said earlier. Food is medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Food can help us.
Mm-hmm.
Food is such a source of energy for us. We need to be mindful about what we're putting into our bodies. And so, a really quick suggestion for that
Mm-hmm.
would be, if
Yeah.
you're really struggling to do this on an everyday basis to cook, bulk cook,
Hmm.
plan
Bu-
ahead.
Bulk cook.
Pick
You
a,
said bulk cook.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes. So on Sundays or
Mm-hmm.
Saturdays, whenever you have free time, plan a meal that's healthy, that's nutritious,
Mm-hmm.
cook it all in, different batches, and you can freeze it if you're not going to eat it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But that can really help having a plan and being consistent and sticking to it is so important. Please don't be going to Facebook and getting your health advice. I see this commonly where people say, "Well, I saw on Facebook this is really good for you," right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, let's stick to reliable sources.
Let's not go to
I'll
Facebook for any advice. It's probably a good
yeah,
idea.
yeah, that's probably true. But as it relates to healthy eating and nutrition and all that, or anything health related, let's
Right.
stay away. Focus on those evidence based resources that are out there. So things like the American College of Lifestyle Medicine has a ton of really great content on their website that you don't have to be a paying member to access. You can also check out our website at tragerinstitute.org, where we have resources available as well. And if you have additional questions, you can come check us out. And then outside of that, always go for reliable resources that are things like, the NIH, the National Institute on Health,
Mm-hmm.
places like that have a Mayo Clinic, for example, all have really great resources on lifestyle medicine and lifestyle behavior change that can
Mm-hmm.
be really helpful to you. Stay away from Facebook.
Yeah. It's anyway. Yeah. That's a whole nother story for another
Oh, I could
time.
talk for days about that. Yes.
I bet you could. I bet you could. Well, as we conclude, what is something that you hope people can take away from our delightful interview with you about the aging process and how we can become more empowered to use systems and resources to support ourselves on this wonderful journey of aging?
Yeah, if I leave you with anything, I hope it's that it's never too late to make changes. Don't wait for tomorrow. Start today and, make small changes, small substitutions, set goals for yourself. And again, they can be very small goals. Work up to that 150 minutes every week of moderate exercise. Again, even 10 minutes is going to be helpful in the long run.
Our interview has been with Dr. Sam Cotton. She's an assistant professor, Department of Family and Geriatric Medicine at the University of Louisville School of Medicine. And she currently works at the University of Louisville Trager Institute and Optimal Aging Clinic. This has been absolutely delightful. And again, for more information, your website again is www.tragerinstitute.org.
Yes.
You got some
Check
great
us out.
classes. You got some great classes on there and great resources. And I echo what you just said, Dr. Cotton. Check them out. Have a great day, and thank you so much for your time. Bye. As we close this episode, I think we can agree that we live in a fast-paced, go, 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 go society, right? And does it not seem that as we age, things are simply going faster and faster and faster? So the challenge is, what are some areas that we can slow down, that we can take control over? And I submit one of those is eating. When we sit down to eat, do we simply wolf it down and then move on like a bunch of Pac-Man? Eat it and then go. You like my rendition of Pac-Man? I did. Anyway, it's got nothing to do with the show. I just like that. But anyway, the point of the story is, what are we doing in terms of eating our food, right? Are we simply, again, wolfing it down and not enjoying every single bite, really tasting it, if you will? So my challenge to you and to myself is, let's plan to enjoy the culinary aromas, right? For starters, when we sit down to eat, let's pause, let's give thanks. And then as we eat, as we consume the meal in front of us, let's focus all of our attention on the taste, the smells, and the sensations that you are experiencing rather than anything else going on around you. And here comes a challenge for you. Turn off the TV. Turn it off, right? Because when you turn it off, maybe try eating in silence or some kind of a modified solitude, if you will, or my personal favorite, which is simply having some nice jazz music playing in the background. The idea is, and here's the other thing too, I read a while back. Some experts were saying, place your fork down between mouthfuls. Because by doing that, slowing intentionally the process down, you will get fuller. You'll, you become satiated a lot quicker, and therefore we can also counteract any proclivities to overeating. So place your fork down, turn off the TV. Otherwise, find how you can control eating and be more mindful, be more in the moment, if you will. And here's my thoughts. Not only be mindful in the moment as we're eating, but perhaps you have some ideas on things that you can immediately touch, that you can control, right? And if you do, send them to me. That's Dale at awg55.com. So thank you so much for listening and watching. Oh, whoa. Wait a minute. Do you remember earlier in my interview with Dr. Anna Faul, I said, it depends if you say potato or potato, trying to correct something I said. Well, I think everybody that's graduated or been through fifth grade, certainly you know the difference, as I do. It's actually tomato or tomato. I do know it's potato. So that would have driven me crazy not making that correction every time I watch this episode, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. And I hope you have too. Enjoyed it as much as I have with our guests, Dr. Anna Faul, who's the executive director of the University of Louisville Trager Institute and Optimal Aging Clinic, and also Dr. Sam Cotton, who manages the interpersonal education and training component of the Institute, specifically lifestyle medicine. And while I'm saying thanks, Samantha, I appreciate all the hard work you're doing behind the scenes to make this podcast series possible. This has been your host, Dale Josie, from the podcast series, Aging with Grace 55+. And please listen to next week's episode of Optimal Aging, sponsored by the University of Louisville Trager and Optimal Aging Clinic. Remember, life is what you make of it. So plan to enjoy the journey as much as I am and millions of other Americans who truly are aging with grace. That's our hope. That's our wish. Now, I hope you enjoy it and continue therein until next time. Bye. Please visit my website, awg55.com, to listen to past episodes of Aging with Grace 55+, including purchasing a deck of 35 oversized playing cards for deeper, more meaningful conversations with the seniors in your life or community.